Good evening and namaste, everybody. Welcome to this session on Agnipath, Decoding the Concept of Tour of Duty, conducted by Indic Researchers Forum. Indic Researchers Forum is an independent research organization that researches on geopolitics, national security, culture, history, and social sciences through a civilizational perspective. The idea is to promote research and propagate the notion that the country has a civilizational heritage that is much larger and older than its recent history. I am Sneha Kathy Sebastian, your host for the session. Currently, I'm a research associate for the forum. For this session, we are delighted to have Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar sir in our midst. Major General Rajan Kochhar, VSM, PhD, is a former MGAOC Central Command. He has commanded key logistics units of the Indian Army, such as the commandment of a Central Ordnance Depot and divisional ordnance units of an infantry and rapid divisions. He has done active service in operational areas in Jammu and Kashmir and the Northeast. Sir also holds a doctorate in emotional intelligence and is a certified NLP practitioner coach. Tour of Duty will serve as a golden opportunity for youth to experience military life without having to join the armed forces on a long-term basis. The Defense Ministry is starting a new recruitment process for the armed forces that will be for a short span of 3 years. To enlighten us more on this topic, I have a couple of questions for Major General Rajan Kochhar sir. Sir, if you're ready, my first question is, can you explain in detail the concept of tour of duty?
At the outset, I'm grateful to Indic Researchers Forum, in particular Yashas and Sneha, for giving me a wonderful opportunity here to present my views. It's a very contentious topic today, debated very much in army circles. Practically, every senior officer is talking about it, and quite surprised that why this new method of recruitment has been introduced in the Indian Army. What happens is, I have done my management, and I have also done my MBA and PhD in management, and studied change management. And throughout my service in the Indian Army, I have always been an exponent for a change for the better. Because unless an organization evolves itself, grows itself, and adapts itself to the changing environment, it will not be able to deliver in the manner we desire it to deliver. So, taking from here, whenever a change is to be introduced in any organization, the stakeholders have to be listened to. Each and every stakeholder, from a Jawan to a JCO to an NCO to an officer to a senior commander, a financial guy, and all these people in the MOD, everybody has to brainstorm a particular idea. And only then we can come to a conclusion that it is an idea whose time has come. Because I'm hearing this word quite often nowadays, and especially on this tour of duty, that it's an idea whose time has come. Who has decided that time has come? Nobody knows. And I'm reminded of a famous American saying, why mend something if it ain't broken? The thing is that today, at the Ladakh border, at the line of actual control, we are proudly saying that it is because of the quality of the Indian soldier that the Chinese has not dared to come inside or to start a war with us. We all know that PLA is far technologically superior to the Indian Army, the kind of weaponry it has. But it doesn't have the Indian Army soldier kind of uh, manpower in its army. The PLA soldiers are no match to the Indian Army. And why we say this? We say this because the Indian Army soldier is the epitome of professionalism, endurance, adaptability, and strength. You can have a mix of all these four aspects in the Indian Army soldier. And therefore, uh, we would like to go now into the reasons which are in the social media. Everybody knows, because everybody is saying that in order to reduce the pension bill, the government has done this. It's almost about 28 to 29% of the defense budget. But to reduce a pension bill, do you want to reduce the professional efficiency and competence of the Indian Army? Let us see how it works out. Let's not pass a judgment at this stage at the outset. And since you asked me, I gave you a bit of a preamble. And now I'll come to the question proper. What is this concept? You are giving fancy names like Agnipath and Agniveer is not going to you make any difference as far as we are concerned in the Indian Army. So the concept now is 25% of the total intake of our soldiers will be for a period of 3 years. 25% of another 25% of the intake will be for 5 years, and the remaining 50% would serve the full term until they reach the retirement age. And pensionable service in the Indian Army for a soldier is 15 years. So we work on a presumption. 50% of the army works for 15 years, 25% for 5 years, and 25% for 3 years. Now, if you analyze the whole thing, you will realize that 50% of the army will not be tinkered with. That means that half of our strength, supposing, for example, if today the Indian Army has a strength of 12 lakh soldiers, if you exclude the officers. So out of 12 lakhs, 6 lakhs are going to be those 50% of the people who are going to be for the full term of their engagement. And the balance of 50% will be divided into those two categories in which I have told you about. This idea seems to be good because ultimately it also aims in reducing the age of the men and making your army younger. So from that point of view, we concede that your idea is okay. But what happens to those people who get enrolled or who get discharged after 3 years and who get discharged after 5 years? How does the Indian Army ensure the morale of these men who are going to be only on a temporary basis, and they know this is not their home for a long time? they are being told here a tour of duty. A duty is never a tour. I want to bring this message to everybody. A duty is 24/7 as far as Indian Army is concerned. It is not a tour that you are going on a tourism for 3 years and you are going to get yourself photographed and show everybody that I was in the Indian Army. And after 3 years, you will start going to the court and saying that treat me like a veteran because I've also been in the army. You can't compare yourself to a soldier who has gone through the rigors of service for 15, 20 years, and you just come for 3 years and go. So these are the issues. This tour of duty is a challenge for the Indian Army. And as far as the government is actually concerned, a government is saving financially, yes. Whatever money the government is going to save on the pensions, this money is going to be used for the modernization of the Indian Army. So the thought is extremely noble because whatever money we are going to save from the pension bill is going to be utilized for the modernization of the Indian Army. Okay, then we come to this issue of what is going to happen to these gentlemen who are going to leave after 3 years and 5 years. Do we have a system in place to ensure that they have some kind of lateral entry somewhere? That area is a gray area as of now because nobody knows anything about it. Nothing has come in black and white. So, we'll await government orders on this. And the next aspect is that subsequently we will discuss because right now I think I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the detailed explanation. The next question is the concept of tour of duty. Why do you think it has been promulgated? And is there any positive promotion aspect of this concept?
You see, you have to see things from the perspective of the government also. Try to understand what government is going through. Today, the unemployment rate in the government, if I can read the figures in the urban area, it is 12.6%. And it was 9.3% about a year back. If you compare with China, and China's unemployment rate is 5%, and Pakistan's unemployment rate is 4.7%. There are 2 million graduates in the country who are unemployed today. There are 500,000 postgraduates in the country who are unemployed today. So if you see from the perspective of the government has a 2-pronged strategy. One is to improve the employment in the country. There will be a substantial increase of vacancies now, and these vacancies are going to be available after every 3 years, 5 years. And the second aspect is that you will be able to modernize your forces for which the budgetary allocation was not coming through. You see, after all, the government has gone through COVID times. The economy of the entire world has actually suffered. So possibly the government visualized that it was going to achieve its objectives both in terms of improving employment and at the same time reallocating the defense budget more to capital acquisition. Today, only 18% of the defense budget is being used for capital acquisition. So possibly seeing the scenario outside today, the government decided that it is important for a military of a nation to be equipped with the latest technology of weapons and state-of-art equipment, drones of the highest caliber, the fighter aircrafts of the highest caliber. Today, the Indian Air Force, from their authorized 42 squadrons, is down to 31 squadrons. But the Indian Navy has just got one or two nuclear submarines. So we see in the entirety of the geopolitical aspects also, the government is concerned and worried. How does it actually make up these shortfalls? So possibly this was one of the measures which the government thought of, ensuring that this shortfall is made up. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Now we've understood the government perspective from this. However, what do you think are the short-term and long-term implications of the tour of duty concept?
A very good question, Sneha, because see, what is if the viewers need to understand today, an Indian Army soldier is exposed to all kinds of terrain. He has to be trained in jungle warfare. He has to be trained in mountain warfare. He has to be trained in desert warfare. He has to be trained in planes. He must know about cyber security. He must know about technology. He must know about all the weapons and the entire inventory which is there in the Indian Army. He should be able to repair his own weapon in times of crisis. So if you have to train a soldier like this, the total training cycle or the basic training is of 44 weeks. So this 44 weeks is almost like 1 year's training, and it is known as the basic training. Now you come on to his other aspect, that as he grows in service, he has to undergo a number of cadres. Havaldar to Subedar, and once he becomes Naik to Havaldar, Havaldar to Subedar, and once he becomes a Subedar, he has training cadres on junior leadership, because he is supposed to be a platoon commander. He can be a company commander also at times due to the shortage of officers. So he should be able to lead his men into battle. So he has to be trained. See what is happening in Ukraine today. 25% of the Russian army is of conscripts. These people are not hardened soldiers. They are breaking down there in the battle. They are actually weeping like women. So you can't be having a soldier of that kind of a mental strength. So this kind of mental strength, our soldiers have it, and we don't want this to be compromised at any stage. I am strongly vocal of this. Pension or no pension, we cannot compromise the mental and the physical and the technical strength of our soldier today, and that is the big challenge. Because if this guy is going to come for 3 years, 1 year will be spent in his basic training, and thereafter he has to work somewhere. He has to do on the job training, because beyond the basic training, he cannot be given any more training, because it takes almost 6 to 7 years in the Indian Army to train a Jawan. So this guy is going to be there for 3 years, 5 years. How do we train him? And what will happen in war then? Will he actually fight? with same motivation and passion as a regular soldier? That is the question. So, in the short-term analysis, the army will have to cope up with all its training establishments. Today, the training establishments have a very, very basic infrastructure. So, in case we are inducting more people, and the strength of the recruits will also increase, do we have the infrastructure available, training infrastructure? Do we have the trainers available who can train this at increasing in numbers? I am given to understand that the intake will almost increase to the 4 times of the present levels. Then how do our training establishments cope up with the infrastructure, with the manpower to train them? That is the short-term effect, because in a short term, we'll have to gear up this training infrastructure. And the long-term effect, I've already actually given you. The army's ethos is on 3 words: Naam, Namak, or Nishan. So, can we expect these 3 things, Naam, Namak, or Nishan, from a guy who is going to come on a tour of duty, stay for 3 years and leave? And the larger question, a long-term effect, is what will happen to these people who are going to employ them? And supposing if they're not employed, they'll be like unemployed, dangerous youth of the country who know how to handle a weapon. What is the surety that they don't join anti-social elements? Because they don't have a job. So if they don't have a job, they will look for livelihood outside. And they are trained to operate a weapon, and a basic military training is already given to them. So these avenues, these anti-social elements, these anti-social agencies of the government, the separatists, will take advantage of this manpower. So it is important that we take a holistic view of this entire thing. Let's have a whole nation approach. Let's not work in a compartmentalized manner. Let's not have any short-term objectives. You must understand what will be the long-term implications if we implement this model, and if this model requires to be tweaked, to be fine-tuned, let it wait for another year or 2 years. Please fine-tune this model and only then implement it.
Thank you, sir. And one last question is, in your opinion, do you think there is any modification required in this concept in order to suit the principles and aims of the armed forces?
Sneha, I think a very important question, and I am quite convinced in my mind that this model needs a greater understanding and greater research. So we have a thought process in which we can create avenues in the paramilitary forces. If a person is trained for 3 years in the Indian Army, he automatically gets a job in one of the paramilitary forces. He is trained for 5 years, he automatically becomes a Nayak or a last Nayak, some rank, and he joins the paramilitary forces. Because he is already undergone a basic military training, and paramilitary forces are also doing the recruitment. Now they have a trained manpower who's already available in the forge, who has done 3 years and 5 years. You know why he can't be absorbed in the paramilitary forces? Uh, and I'm not talking about corporate and all this thing. I don't want these people to go to the corporate, because we have seen what happens to our faujis. उसको गनमैन लगा देंगे, उसको दरबान बना देंगे, कोई उसको मीनियल सा जॉब दे देंगे. We don't want them to go to corporate. We want them to be absorbed in the paramilitary forces. And if the government is adamant, or if you determined to use the right word to actually implement this model, then the government must assure each individual who is joining that he will be absorbed in a paramilitary force. It can be CRPF, it can be ITBP, it can be anything. And then his level of motivation will also improve, and it will be a win-win situation. The army also gets benefited by his high level of motivation and morale, and the paramilitary force also gets a trained manpower who has been trained for 3 to 5 years in the Indian Army. So I think this is a viable system. Senior officers in the army have also commented upon this, and they also find that it can be tried, and why not? So I think this kind of a modification is required. If the government wants to go through it, well and good. Concept is good, well-meaning, savings to the state, modernization of the Indian Army also takes place with the amount of budget which is actually saved on pension, and at the same time the paramilitary forces also get a better manpower. So I think it is possible to do it in this manner. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for your detailed analysis. I think now when we form an opinion of the concept of tour of duty, we'll be able to look at it from the perspective of the government, the military, and finally from the public's point of view. And I'm sure all of us would have understood the concept very, very clearly. And I finally want to thank Rajan, sir, for your patience in answering all my questions. I welcome Harjeet Sandhu, sir, for additional comments on the same topic. Harjeet Sandhu, sir, is a retired IPS officer. He was the DIG in charge of counterinsurgency operations in Manipur, and at the international level, he has had assignments with the Interpol General Secretariat and the UN Security Council. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Sneha. Actually, I think General Rajan covered this issue so exceedingly well, but I just want to re-emphasize just 2 points out of that. One, the training of the forces, whether it is the armed forces or whether they are from paramilitary or police or any law enforcement, it is a lifelong process. You train people at various stages, you have refresher trainings, then at each level, it keeps on adding. So if you have somebody for a very short time, then again, it's an issue of how well that person is trained and what type of job that person can actually perform. So that is one part. It should not happen like that, but one of the very former and great policeman K.F. Rustamji had said he was the first one who started a border security force. He said many officers just jeep through their tenure in the district. They just sit in the jeep, drive through that, and the tenure ends, so they don't even get down to the ground. The same thing could be in any of the forces. So it should not happen just like that. And more important than that is, what happens to these people who have got now, even if they are for a short time, they will get some basic training. They will learn to fire weapons. They will get all this cyber security and related digital databases, everything they will get to know. What happens to them after that? After a short period, they will still be very young, available. I have seen some of these guns for hire, what they say, guns for hire. in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Somalia, and even in the Balkans during my previous jobs for the United Nations Security Council. So these people are available to any party who can pay more them. Some of the South African soldiers and policemen after the apartheid regime, you could see them even training FARC rebels in Colombia. And quite a few of them, including Israeli soldiers, they were training the forces of Liberia's President Charles Taylor. So when we are taking this new issue, it has to be examined at a holistic level so that these people, we keep a track of them. Now with ISIS and other things, there are so many these terrorist groups who are always looking for well-trained people to be recruited. So in nutshell, we must keep full track of these people and properly analyze it, properly research it before implementing anything like that. And particularly afterwards, where they go. They should not be like General Rajan said that some of these people are put as Darban or somewhere as a outside sitting with a 12-bore gun outside a bank, just standing there and saluting everybody and everyone who gets into. So even their self-esteem has to be respected, and at the same time, it should be noted that they are not their whatever training resources, they are not further used by some of those unscrupulous elements, the criminals or the terrorists. Thank you so much for inviting me for the comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful comments.
Thank you, Harjeet sir, for your valuable comments. As we end this event, I would like to thank Rajan sir, Harjeet sir, the audience and the team. Goodbye, everyone, and have a great day. Jai Hind.